For folks who don't know, the Free State Project is a movement of voluntary human action where we are trying to concentrate libertarians in the state of New Hampshire.
I think we've done more in the last decade than every other libertarian movement combined has accomplished in the last 5 decades.
Are my friends and my neighbors who are willing to stand against tyranny, make their voices heard, and have a goddamn impact.
I have a problem with too many people are afraid to say what they believe in, let alone actually do something about it. If you're afraid to stand outside the TSA line and piss off 97% of people who are waiting to just take the arm builder up their ass in 5 seconds, then you're probably not ever going to make the change.
Free State Project, again, it's 1% of the Free State movement.
I am a friend of the Free State Project.
And would you encourage people to check it out?
Absolutely. Check it out. Find out. If you like it, join and continue the effort.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, libertarians, anarchists, movers, natives, and those on your way. Thanks for tuning in to Free State Live, where you get to hear about all the ways you can live free or die in the free state of New Hampshire. But first and foremost, it's time to welcome back your favorite hosts. I'm Justin O'Donnell, former libertarian candidate for U.S. Senate and host of the O'Donnell for Liberty podcast. Joining me, as always, Jeremy Kauffman, local tech mogul and CEO of Library. How are you, Jeremy?
It's great to be here. This is a really exciting episode for me because there are few organizations doing more than Melissa and Rebuild.
Yeah, and back for the second week in a row. I know, big shock for everybody, but the audience loves her. Queen Quill herself, author, activist, candidate, and libertarian extraordinaire, Carla Gericke. How are you, Carla?
I'm good. I'm tired. I have a new puppy.
Yeah, we were talking about that before. Carla's new puppy is a handful. For those of you who are in the Manchester area and have gotten the chance to meet her, you will soon, I'm sure. And this week, joining us, formerly of Reopen, now of Rebuild New Hampshire, State Representative Melissa Blasek. We are 2 years into a pandemic of growing government, with tyranny around every corner, lockdowns, mandates, and fear-mongering from those in power, laying groundwork to strip us of our liberty at every opportunity. Well, first with Reopen and now with Rebuild, Melissa has been building a grassroots organization to work the front lines of that fight for liberty and keep the government from treading on us every day. How are you, Melissa? Thank you for joining us.
I am great. I am tired too. I had my daughter at the State House with me today, and we were doing our thing.
So go ahead.
I would just love to start by, I think a lot of our audience probably knows very little about your organization. To me, it's all about what the Free State movement is about, a group of people coming together at a time of need and being really effective. To me, it's a testament to what we're achieving here. But take it from the top from people and tell us a little bit about your group and what you're doing.
Yeah, we've raised a lot of ruckus. So J.R. Hole and Carol McKinney and Andrew Manus founded Reopen New Hampshire in late March 2020. Right after there was a press conference where Laurie Shibinette, the commissioner of DHHS, said that the hospitals would not become overwhelmed. And wasn't that the whole point of the lockdown? So they formed Reopen New Hampshire then, and I think they thought this was going to last like a few weeks and then they could all go back to their lives. And here we are almost 2 years later, and we are still going and we are still growing. And we have actually a pretty good list and a really good amount of people who are really active. Listen, I was not nearly as active. I'm sure none of you knew who I was before the lockdowns. And I think COVID really, or I should say the COVID response, really woke a lot of people up. A brand new kind of form of activism arose. So I basically bothered Andrew Manus enough until he let me join them on the board. And JR convinced me to run for office and in the middle of the filing period in June 2020. And here I am. I'm the executive director now. And yeah, we've raised a lot of ruckus. We decided by May 2020 or so that the legislature was the key forward. At the time, the law said that the legislature could vote to end the state of emergency. And that was sort of our goal, was to I don't know, infiltrate. I don't know, that's a bad word, but like get a lot of people in office who were, sympathetic to restoring a, constitutional republic form of government again, and going back to separation of powers. And
I don't think that's called infiltration. That's called democracy. Right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. And we helped sort of revitalize the Freedom Caucus in the House once, because I think we got 76 endorsed legislators. One, and that sort of made up the basis of what became, again, the House Freedom Caucus. And we spent last year working on state of emergency reform, which we were, fairly successful at. We're finishing up this year. And now we're on to, we kind of deal with all the COVID issues. So obviously, medical freedom, mask choice, vaccine choice, and I think a lot of what we realize, we've always known that the administrative state is severely out of control. And that's where a lot of what happened with COVID came from, was the administrative state, the bureaucrats. So we're also very committed to reforming some of the administrative state. So
that's awesome. And I just want to say personally that, I deeply admire you. I think you've done a hell of a job. I've been impressed from the start. You guys were list building from the first email. You guys just really came at this in a go get 'em way. And I've been thrilled to, marginally be involved and at least come show up to some of the stuff. We're just providing information in terms of educational information for the people who are watching. Primarily people who are watching from out of state, and they're just curious, what do, Liberty people do in New Hampshire? So you mentioned you were up at the State House with your daughter. What were you up there doing today? What does a day look like for Melissa?
Well, we are back in the new year, so the term has started again, and all the bills are having their hearings. And my daughter is 3 now. Last year she was 2. And so it was like a little bit too much to bring her with me. And I would get a babysitter and I would go up there for, a 3-minute bill introduction and think, wow, I got a babysitter for this, huh? So I'm bringing her up with me now when I go to introduce bills or just testify on a bill. She had a meeting in the speaker's office today. But yeah, that's sort of, the hearings are happening right now for the bulk of the bills. There's almost 1,000 bills in the House alone this year. And we kind of have to sludge our way through all of the hearings. And then obviously I have my own committee that I'm on. I'm on Public Works. We name bridges. I don't know.
You built the roads, Melissa. You built the roads.
The fun bill we have in Public Works this year is the railroad bill to remove state funding of any railroad projects, right? That one's gonna be fun.
While they're trying to build one all the way to Boston.
Yeah.
Well, right. So that's happening. There's a bill in to prohibit state funding of it, which Fantastic. I think we all know that a railroad is a money pit. So,
And Reopen, I will say the Free State Project doesn't take positions on any legislation, but Reopen does. And you can go onto the Reopen NH website. You can see the bills that they're tracking, the stances that they take, and the kinds of things that they're trying to move forward in the state. So for those that are curious, the website's really great and has a lot of great information on it.
Yeah, if you get on our email list, you'll get an email, especially during this time of year where there are hearings every week. You'll get an email every week about what reopened position bills are, when the hearings are, how to email the committee, how to sign in on a bill. And you'll be completely updated kind of moment to moment. If you get on our Telegram channel, also, you get even more, minute by minute updates. Sometimes I find out information and, goes right on Telegram. You never know. You can find out and really keep up with all of those things because it is hard. Calendars are hard to keep up with, and I do the calendar work. I go through the calendar every week and read all the bills for you. So please follow us. Please get on our email list, and please join our Telegram channel.
So today, what were you up there talking about or testifying on, and what's sort of coming up this next week?
So the bill I introduced, I am actually not the prime sponsor on. Representative Andrew Pratt is the prime sponsor, but he couldn't be there. So I introduced a bill. So back during the state of emergency from January to June of 2021, there was an emergency order 76, that required everyone who received the COVID-19 vaccine during that time to be added into the state vaccine registry, which does violate our state constitution, because our state constitution provides us privacy from government intrusion. And I railed about that at the time, but we have a bill in that requires everyone who is added into the registry during that time period to be notified if they want to remain in the registry, and if they don't, their record will be expunged.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. And New Hampshire, of course, was the last state to even really get a registry. And honestly, it was kind of, it's this opt-in, opt-out thing where you're supposed to be able to opt out, if I understand correctly. But then we realized, well, if there's this other list that they're keeping for the vaccines, even if you opt out, there's a list of people who are opting out. Is that correct? Or
I don't believe that that's correct. There was a proposed rule change last fall that would have made that the case. And well, that's one of the things that Reopen did. We got so many people to that hearing that it overwhelmed DHHS that not only did they cancel the meeting, they canceled the proposed rule change. So
safety in numbers, as we like to say.
Yes, bureaucrats are not used to activists showing up, honestly. Politicians are used to it, but bureaucrats are not. So we do try to keep on top of administrative rules changes and that sort of thing for you. Now, what it does do, there's not a lot of informed consent to opting out. They're not required to tell you that you can opt out. And technically, anytime you receive a vaccine, or actually anytime a vaccine event occurs, meaning, and that includes if you were asked if you wanted to receive a vaccine and you declined, that is entered into the registry. They really, really, really want data on you. I cannot even tell you. When we attempted last year to make it opt-in, there are only 2 states currently that are opt-in. They essentially, DHHS got on there and was like, well, we kind of want to trick people into compliance. And so we're trying again for an opt-in registry this year. I think we're going to be successful, actually, at making it opt-in. If you want to have your information captured, you are free to do that. I don't know why you would, but if you want to, it's up to you. And but you have to be able to fill out a form to be put into the registry. And I think this is becoming even more of a relevant topic now, because the federal government, there's a bill that our very own Annie Custer put in and did pass the House to make a national vaccine database. It will require the state to put that information in there. And there was there's an executive order making directives to state agencies to collect data on anyone who files a religious exemption. So the data collection's out of control, which brings me to the next bill this week that's interesting. And the reason why I was in the speaker's office this morning. But yeah, there's a bill that is actually the Speaker of the House's bill, which is unusual that the Speaker would sponsor a bill. I really should get the bill numbers up for these. Give me a second. And it's HB 1455, and it prohibits any state enforcement of any federal vaccine mandate, and it prohibits the state of New Hampshire from giving any data on vaccine, any vaccine data to the federal government.
And that's kind of just in line with New Hampshire values. I know New Hampshire doesn't share crap with other states or the federal government as it is.
We did
on a lot
to get
of
the COVID-19 vaccine. We did.
Because
and that's
I
why
know
Emergency Order 76 existed.
when I first moved to New Hampshire, I got pulled over for speeding on my way out to Keene. I was going like 80 miles an hour in a 30. And when I had moved, my license was one ticket away from being suspended for 5 years in Massachusetts. And the cop takes my paper New Hampshire license, comes back, runs it. He says, "I see you've never had a ticket before, so I'm letting you off with a warning." And I'm like, apparently there's just no communication here. I love it. I love it.
That sounds right.
Yeah. Well, so to me, that's like one of the more New Hampshire things. Just don't, even if we're going to collect information, don't share it with other people.
Exactly. I don't trust the federal government to have this kind of data. So this is a great bill, and the public hearing is tomorrow in House Health and Human Services at 3:30. Again, it's HB 1455. And, it's essentially, I helped write it, and it is modeled after Vermont's sanctuary state laws.
I love it.
Well, and something that you guys have been so successful at, and I don't understand. I honestly don't even understand how you do it. I don't know if this is going to be a question, so maybe that's the question: is how did you do this? But like, I went to a reopen event at the Carriage Tap Room that you guys helped put on. There were probably 150, 200 people there who were passionate about improving New Hampshire in a pro-liberty direction. And I probably knew 15 of them. And I feel like I know almost everyone at this point. And I'm like, who are all these people? I mean, because it's really incredible. You talked about what you guys accomplished, but I think it was a little understated because you guys, starting from nothing, from an organization that didn't exist, came together. You were getting hundreds of people out at the State House at key events, putting pressure on at really important times. You helped get 80 people elected to the state legislature. A lot of these people never ran for office before. And now you're passing bills. You're restricting the governor's emergency powers. You're ensuring religious liberty is protected. We haven't said the word yet. Can I say it, Justin? It's safe.
Yep, we are past the AI threshold for YouTube censorship.
So there's a bill to, I don't know what the right word for it is, completely deregulate or partially deregulate ivermectin. Which is however you feel about it. It's at the worst. It is harmless. It is not going to hurt you. Right.
Mm-hmm. It has a safer safety profile than Tylenol.
Yeah, exactly. So ludicrous to say, and it shows how in terms of the objections to this, it shows how inconsistent these people are. Not that anyone cares, but so anyway, it's just like, to me, it's like this was mind blowing for me because I was like, oh, I know a lot of the Free Staters, I know the legislators, I know a lot of these people, and all of a sudden, you guys got hundreds of passionate people.
Mm-hmm.
I won't really activated before.
I won't really take credit for that. I think that the lockdowns did that. I mean, people like to say that we, as in Reopen, is like all Free Staters. I'm like, I was born here, dude. I'm not a Free Stater.
Well, we do encourage, if you're open to it. If you're okay with the word libertarian, we encourage you to be comfortable with the word.
I want to make a T-shirt that says I self-identify as a Free Stater and wear it to session just to completely make the Democrats go insane. I'm going to do it at some point.
We'll pay. That's on us. We'll pay
at some point during testimony last Thursday for CACR 32, the room was packed, standing room only, and Representative Baldessaro just paused testimony. He's like, "How many people in here are Free Staters?" And almost the entire room raised their hands. Like, don't let them know.
We don't apologize. I think that's a late 2000s or early 2010s attitude. There's no shame. You don't have to apologize. Do you like liberty? Do you live in New Hampshire? Cool, you're a Free Stater. It's not something,
but we get labeled as that. And the reality is that most of the people who show up to our events are not Free Staters. They are, native New Hampshire people who were not necessarily politically involved before. But, what's happening here with lockdowns and medical mandates has just awoken this whole new brand of activists. And I do include myself in that. I always had these ideals, but I didn't feel the need devote my time and energy to it. And I will say, I'm not unusual being a New Hampshire native, right? That until I left the state, I did not know that Republicans weren't what Republicans were here. Like I was like raised by Republican parents who were maybe a little bit more establishment than I am now, but they leaned way more, libertarian. And I just thought that's what it meant to be Republican. And so I do think that is how it is for a lot of New Hampshire people. And so this really, sometimes I get discouraged because I'm like, I can't believe it took this long for this many people. But you're right. We were out there at the State House. We got like 800 to 1,000 people, in the middle of the lockdowns to come out in a very small state when technically, frankly, it was illegal to protest according to the emergency orders, illegal, whatever you want to call it. But the emergency orders did make it seem like it was going to be illegal. So, and we got a lot of people because people were just really like, I just could not believe that the government had this authority and that people were accepting that they had this authority. So, I won't really say that we did magic. What we did do was we made sure that we captured them and we got them so that they would continue to come out and we could continue leading them in a direction. But we didn't do any kind of magic as far as, getting the non-activists to wake up and become activists.
And I think it's really important to note that it's because of the groundwork, right? Like that when you mentioned the names, the people on the board who started that, all of them were already activists in another arena, right? So you're kind of bringing like the 2A people are bringing their people, the 1A people are bringing their people, the financial business people are kind of bringing their people. So it's almost like a perfect storm in the sense that, we've been spending the last 12 years sort of educating people on this notion of freedom. Mm-hmm. And then the second, the federal government was like, yeah, we're just going to, usher in full medical tyranny and totalitarianism. And we were like, maybe not in New Hampshire.
Right. And, we've tried to give people tools, right? So we've had faculty come up and do activism training. And every time that we have them come up, we sell out. People really want to learn how to do this. And I think we've done it we've done 5 or 6 classes and, we get like 100 or more people for each class. And now those are trained activists who have learned how to do this. And I've even noticed that some of those people kind of gone off and branched off and made their own groups about their own issues. And that's great, right? This is what we need. And they've learned to become a lot more effective at advocating to their legislators. And frankly, me learning how to be an activist has made me more effective at being a legislator.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true. Yeah.
I think the big part, Ian, like one of the most surprising parts to someone like me, who considered myself very plugged in politically. At that point, I was always going to political events, whether FSP events, Libertarian Party events, Liberty Republican events, testifying on bills on a very regular basis, getting to know all of the faces and names involved in politics in the state, including the non-politicians who just cared to show up on a regular basis to protest. And Kurt points it out in the comments, at the April 2020 protest, hundreds of people, and he recognized very, very few. And as Jeremy said, the people you got to come out were people who were just angry, fed up, and had had enough. And you kept them involved. And that's why you've built such a successful movement.
Yeah. No, it's been great. And I can't take credit. Like, JR and Andrew and Carolyn were the ones who knew how to do this. And they've devoted so much time and energy to doing that. And they've taught me. It's been a huge learning curve for me. We're always trying to do new things to keep people involved. Especially in the off season, we try to do something like we had that big event and we want to keep people active and excited, especially because then we're going to need them to come out and actually do the activism to the legislature when we're in season like we are right now. So, we have some really exciting bills this year. that people have turned out for. Like, yeah, we can talk about the ivermectin bill now, but that one was really a surprise. Like, it just kind of came out of nowhere. It really wasn't on anyone's radar. I was excited about the bill, but other people weren't. So essentially what the bill does is that it makes ivermectin available without a prescription via a standing order. It's the way that birth control is over the counter in several states. We modeled birth control laws for this one. And basically, way more people showed up to the hearing than I expected. Everyone wanted to share their personal story using ivermectin. And I surprised the committee by bringing in Dr. Paul Merrick, who is the co-founder of the FLCCC. And he was up there for a half hour answering questions. And when we went into that hearing, honestly, I was like, well, I hope that this gets some press and starts a conversation, because this bill is totally going to ITL. It's now bipartisan supported.
Ha! Nice.
That's a win.
It's so hypocritical, libertarian perspective, of course, is, your body, you get to choose, you own it, you can choose what you put inside of it. And it's so hypocritical to me. See, and of course, I don't know, attacking your opponents for hypocrisy is like kind of a boring attack, I suppose, because that's the nature of politics. But, it's like these people want to legalize marijuana, which we support, and they want to legalize mushrooms, which we support. And then they're getting upset about like ivermectin. It's like, what? You're upset about that? Like I support legal marijuana. It is certainly more harmful to you than ivermectin is. It's like, come on.
It's all political.
Yeah.
I got to tell you a story. So at the last session, I won't say who it was, okay? But she is, a pretty establishment Republican. Like, she's not like one of us, right? And so she comes over to me and she's like, look at them over there. They don't want a single drop of PFAS in their water, but they'll inject anything into their arm that the government tells them to.
I mean, the standing joke for me is it's like they're against GMOs, but I'm like, aren't you a genetically modified organism now?
At this point,
I know. I mean, we had just passed, the cultivation bill, the home cultivation bill, which I voted for. I was very happy to vote for it. But then, they don't think that people should have the right to decide what vaccine they have. I mean, it's just like...
I mean, in some ways, it must be so exhausting. I do try and think empathetically about, other people. And I really am trying to internalize this notion if they're not our enemies, or I don't have enemies. They're enemies of liberty, but, that's their problem. It's not our problem. There's no sense in the hate. Like, let's spread more love. But, the cognitive dissonance for them must be at such a level that, like, I imagine you almost have a frequency where you're nuts, because how do you go my body, my choice for abortion, which, we could debate, and then over here, you're like, no, but your body, my choice. And they don't seem to see the entire psychoness of that distinction.
This is the ultimate that, okay? There is a bill in currently that is an entirely Democrat supported bill to add informed consent as to the public school curriculum. My body, my choice. And it's but it's all about, I know what they're thinking. They're thinking abortion, right? I mean, because there's just no way that they're not thinking medical interventions, because they're advocating, and it really is unbelievable. But I'm like, yeah, you're totally right. You should decide what happens to your body. It's just I can't. But I sit there all the time in session. And the most common thing that I think in my head when I listen to Democrats talk is, oh, yeah, because people are too stupid to take care of themselves. I mean, because that's what they're constantly thinking, that the government has to, because, too stupid to think for themselves, except for abortion. That's
why they're allowed to vote.
What?
Yes.
That's the next level, right? Is this notion that these people can't make the decisions.
That's one of the better memes I saw last week on Twitter was somebody had commented, it's like, hey, libertarians, why does it bother you so much when somebody's wearing a mask driving alone in their car? It doesn't hurt you. And somebody just responded with, they vote.
Yeah,
Like-
I mean, it's a problem. I mean, listen, I try not to go there, and constantly harass them about their choices, but I just do think
Yeah.
but you're imposing it upon me, It's not that you're doing your crazy alone in your car. It's that you want the government to make me do that too.
Right.
Have you been able to? There have been some issues. Sometimes. In fact, I think the Free State Project was tweeting about this recently. That there's an attack that the Free State movement is far right, and it's like the Free State legislators are the ones that are like, we don't want ICE here. We want legal shrooms. We want legal weed. So it's a really tough attack. And Free Staters, I think, have shown a willingness. The elected ones are very willing to work with the Democratic legislators. They work with them on qualified immunity. They work with them on other issues when there's ways that they can. I do think they work with the Republican. It's probably 80-20 or 90-10 or something, but they're absolutely willing to.
Mm-hmm.
How has that been for you guys? Are there any areas where you have been able to work across the aisle? I think basically everyone you endorsed was a Republican. I'm not sure about that. Feel free to check in.
Yeah, we did endorse 2 Democrats, I think, in the primaries, but they lost their primaries. And maybe because they didn't quite align. But yeah, no, I will say I don't understand the Democrats' attacks on the Free Staters as being far right, because the Free State people vote with the Democrats far more than the establishment Republicans do. We certainly, we vote with them on marijuana, qualified immunity, immigration, all of those issues. I put myself in there. I vote with them. And I've had, but reopen issues, rebuild issues. No. Now they did last year. They were very willing in the House anyway to vote for state of emergency reform. Our big state of emergency reform bill passed the House. I think only 30 something people voted against it out of 400. So that means the vast majority of Democrats voted for that bill. But now they're unwilling to go any further because they got what they wanted. What we passed last year at the end of the day gave them their only issue. The only thing that they cared about was what the Democrats sued the governor over during the beginning of the COVID-19 emergency, which was the control over the federal dollars. Okay. And what we did end up getting passed last year handed the control over the federal dollars back in the hands of the Executive Council and the Fiscal Committee, right? Like normal. And so now they're unwilling to go any further because they already got what they wanted. They are very unwilling. They love masks. They think masks are amazing. And if we would all just use masks more, everything would be grand. And so they don't align with us on that. We have some school mask bills. The vaccine issue, I don't think there's a single person. There was, unfortunately, Representative Barbara Shaw recently unexpectedly passed away, and she was a Democrat who did support vaccine choice. But otherwise, and they seem to really like the administrative state. I don't know why, but they seem to really enjoy it. We have a very interesting bill that you guys will really like to deal with the administrative state. So a lot of people don't realize that I actually called up administrative rules and I said, how many administrative rules are there? And they were like, millions? That's the answer I got. So if you were going to print it, how many pages do you think it would be? And they said, well, we used to a while ago have it printed. It took up, I don't know, she gave me 4 bookshelves, 2 industrial sized trash bins, 3 filing cabinets. And she just kept going. I was like,
oh my God.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
just follow all that. What's so hard to understand?
Now, just so everyone remembers, administrative rules are things that your elected officials didn't really have any say-so in whatsoever, besides one committee has to pass it, right? And then they have the weight of law, the color of law. And so we have a bill into, I'm very excited about this one. They love to pass administrative rules when legislature is not in session so that we don't have any say-so over it. And we can't fight back against it. So what this says is that after the committee passes an administrative rule, it has to be put on the consent calendar.
Nice.
Where hypothetically somebody could pull it off of the consent calendar and vote on it in a regular calendar. And it also means that they can't pass any when we're not in session. So
I think that's the big key, is that they can't pass it when you're not in session.
Yeah. It's very interesting. So I really like that one a lot. Let me try to find the bill number there. I don't have it.
That'll at least give us like a 6-month window each year where the laws can't change on us, and like we know what we can and can't get away with. And it's like, what do you mean it changed 2 nights ago?
Exactly. They do this, and they do it like in September, right? When this big DHS rule change with the vaccine registry was going through, it was like in September or October, and when no one's paying attention.
It's almost like they might plan it that way.
And that's I will say, I'm a huge optimist, so don't take this comment too pessimistically, but it's part of what makes our work so hard, because if you like government and you like making the rules, then you go and get in government, and you can do that from anywhere. You can do it as a bureaucrat. You can do that. There's no counterbalance to that, right? All I can do is I can attempt to vote. I can attempt to support the people, but like, there's no position that I can directly get where I just take them off the books, but there's positions I can get where I just get to put them on the books, right? And so there's a sort of asymmetry in terms of the ability to add things compared to the ability to remove them. And that's
why I think we should have a lot more people doing tax protests, because really the only counterbalance there is to be like, I'm not cutting your check. You purport to work for me. You're not doing what I want. Why would I pay your salary? That was the one thing I felt very, very strongly about last year. And, it obviously went nowhere, but I was like, how about this? You want to call me non-essential? I won't pay any of the things you want because you told me I'm not essential.
And I actually just had this argument with like a group of legislators because some of them think that we should go back to being an every other year legislature, which there's like 2 legislatures that are like that, I think, still, a couple. And I argue that while our founders saw the argument of, well, the less time that a legislator is in session, the less laws they can make, therefore the smaller the government is. I don't think that works anymore in the administrative state.
So I saw a pitch. I don't remember who made the pitch or how old it was, but I was deep diving into like YouTube videos and Wikipedia articles about like alternatives to government that were pitched by the founding fathers. And like, because the first pitch was a monarchy, and when they couldn't find anybody who was willing to be the king, they went down the road of developing the system we have. But one of the original pitches that somebody, I don't think it had any support, but was a every other year legislature with 2 separately elected legislatures. One could pass laws and one could only repeal.
Oh.
I like it.
That sounds fun. But again, it still only works if you don't have an administrative state and if you don't have an executive branch with as much of authority as we've handed executive branches these days, right? I think we saw what can happen when the legislature is not doing its job. That's what happened during the entire state of emergency, right? Legislature was basically irrelevant. And you get, it's not a great thing. I actually think that we almost need legislatures to be in control more, to be able to fight back against the administrative state, because their bureaucrats work 365 days a year. They're all year round.
It was a Heinlein recommendation. Dennis Pratt comes in with the save.
Oh, very nice. That's really interesting.
We could just privatize the bureaucratic state slowly but surely, right? Like if anyone's providing an actual service. One of my favorite slogans is government, there's an app for that. Like if they're doing something that's useful, we will buy your service. Like imagine we had apps and we could just like ring this snowplow guy when you want him, right? And it would work so much better. Everyone would would be happier. Everyone would be richer. It's just these dinosaurs. These people have no imagination. Actually, interestingly, and this is just an aside, and then we'll get back to your stuff, but I was listening to a book on The Body Keeps the Score. I think it's on trauma. And apparently, if you overstimulate the amygdala, which is one of my theories, right? Like they've given everyone this fear mindset, then it actually does affect the creative parts of your brain, and you start to lack imagination. And I was like, oh, isn't that interesting? Like if these people have actually been like brain damaged with this fear propaganda. I saw a video today. I don't know if anyone saw it on Twitter, but it was like two Karens, older, I would say like in their 60s, in an elevator. They had masks on, and it happened to be a black dude. And I only noticed because someone said if this was normal times, everyone would be like, that's super racist. So an unmasked black man tries to get into the elevator, and these two ladies go bananas. Like they are screaming at him. The one woman hits him. It's being videotaped. They're like, get off, get off. Like her eyes are like wild animal. Her mask's like coming off. It was crazy. And I was just like, who broke these poor people's brains?
Yeah, I say that all the time. COVID has broken people's brains.
It's awful.
I don't know if anybody knows the psychiatrist or have heard of him, Mark McDonald. He's a psychiatrist in LA, and he wrote a book called The United States of Fear, How America fell victim to mass psychosis. Mm-hmm. And I talked to him a couple weeks ago. He has this theory that like essentially people are addicted.
Yeah.
And you have to treat them like they're an addict. Like you can't reason with them because their brains are broken. They're sick people. And that's kind of it.
I mean, that's why, if I get a moment every time I'm like, turn off the TV, like I half jokingly, I mean, I took my mom CNN away like 4 months ago, and she's a better person because she's not getting that constant like fear bombardment. Mm-hmm. And I do think, I mean, we have a massive problem in this country with like, everyone's frequency is super off. Like there's so much healing to do. Of course, I'm at the stage where, you can't fix the world. What we're doing is we're going to fix our backyard. We have a manageable size project here. And it's super exciting because we keep winning. Like we keep getting things done, and people are upset. I mean, I look at the hate mail now and just the way people frame things. And I'm like, they're so far removed from reality in terms of the name calling and in terms of like what we're actually trying to accomplish, that it's like they're giving us a gift at this stage.
They are. And I don't mean anyone to take this the wrong way, because if I wish COVID hadn't happened, right? If I could push a button and never happened, I'd push the button. But COVID, it activated all these people for reopen. It's accelerated ideological concentration more than ever. It helped get a bunch of great, record that we'd over, more than 1,000 new free staters last year, which is a first time we've ever been in 4 digits. It's accelerated all of these trends. And I don't think it's good for liberty nationwide, but in terms of having a libertarian space, I think it's made it more likely than ever. And the people that it has caused this kind of derangement in, like the derangement is still a minority perspective. I don't think it's going to be good for the next election cycle where we're going to see even better people get elected. I mean, you've got the Democrats constantly whining about the fact that like they have to go into the state house. It's like, you can go around Manchester, you can go around. People are living their lives.
Yeah.
That is, they're only going to come.
Political tool. I really, really, really believe it's just a political tool. And I actually think it's a political miscalculation. So when I did talk to the psychiatrist, he said, if you had talked to me 2 months ago, I'd been like, well, I guess we're all still, can I swear? We're all still screwed. He said, but essentially 40% in the middle, like there's always been 30% like us, somewhat anyway, 30% who are just lost forever, right? But the 40% in the middle are done. They want their lives back. They've already gotten COVID. They got it over Christmas, probably, right? And like they did everything. They masked. They got vaxxed. They stayed home. They did all the things. They got COVID. They didn't die. They want their lives back. And I think that the Democrats are making a really, really, really big political miscalculation by continuing to run on the fear. I think I give it another 6 months. I think we're on the off ramp. Okay. And I give it another 6 months where Republicans start falling over each other, trying to be like the party of like the least restrictions and like the most free anti, medical tyranny. And I give it another 6 months where Democrats are like, crap, we probably shouldn't have gone so hardcore. Our Democrats in the House are still so crazy. And I think it's all an act. And I don't think, well, I mean, I'm not saying that they're all pretending, but I think overall it's a political tool. And I think it's wrong. I don't think it's going to win them any points. I think if anything, it's going to lose them points at this point.
So have them keep doing that. And on a national basis, fortunately, apparently now we're just, I don't know, going to go to war with Russia.
Yeah.
It's like I shared the meme today, the philosophy guy who has to pick the button and he's like, admit the vaccines don't work or war with Russia.
Well, on Melissa's point, like you say, in the next 6 months, you're going to see Republicans tripping over each other to see who can be more anti-lockdown and more anti-mandate. And I think we're already seeing that. And there's the ongoing war between Florida, Texas, and New Hampshire about who's more anti-lockdown and anti-mandate in the Republican side of things. But like Carla said, we keep winning here. But more importantly than keep winning, we keep winning in the right way. And that's something I was trying to point out to people last week and getting in that argument when they're saying, well, Florida broke their mandates first. Florida broke their lockdowns first. I'm like, yeah, but Florida broke their lockdowns by embracing a tyrannical governor who could just do things by edict, where New Hampshire broke them by limiting the government's power to ever do it again.
Yes, they haven't. I like to, okay, so there's the Florida, New Hampshire argument, right? There's two things. Number one, Florida is too big to do what Rebuild did. Okay. There's too many people. It's too vast. Like we could not have been nearly, it's just noise, and in a small state like this, we can build, we can be more impactful. Just physically speaking, like we can all get to the Capitol more, easily. But Florida has like a governor who gets it right now. But what happens when they don't have a governor that gets it? Their legislature kind of sucks, honestly. They don't have a freedom legislature like we do. Okay. They have Sabatini down there and he's willing to throw a whole bunch of bombs like by himself. He's so hated by his own people that they won't even let him on a committee. Like people don't realize that he's never had a bill leave committee ever. Okay. Yeah. So we have a representative government who actually did. And you're right. I mean, while I do think, and I get the libertarians, and I also don't like that people do things by edict. I don't want them doing it by edict either way. Am I going to prefer the guy who does something by edict to protect individual rights over not? Sure. Okay. But no, you're right. We did it the right way. And we did it by electing people and changing laws and lawful manners, right?
Right. Because it's not about whether or not you have a good guy in there now.
Right.
You could have a great Ron DeSantis type governor in there now, or who's going to do all of the anti-lockdown stuff and the mandates, not let any of the mandates or masking go through, and use the power of his office to protect people's liberty. But in the meantime, all he's doing is setting a precedent for when the tables do turn and a bad person gets in to be able to leverage all of that power.
Yep. Now, Ron DeSantis in New Hampshire.
Honestly, I'll say a couple of things. One, just because it's come up a couple times, we don't need to go down this path, but just there's plenty of people in New Hampshire that are pro-vaccine in the sense that they take the vaccine, they think the vaccine is good for them. There's nothing that's anti. We're very anti-mandate, but just because that's come up a couple of times, just wanted to be clear on that.
It's about personal choice.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I wanted to say, and I know this puts me in the position of defending someone who I'm not, quite frankly, the largest fan of, like despite the things that happen here, we're rated by third parties as actually one of the states with the lowest COVID restrictions that happened, generally in the bottom 5 to bottom 10.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah,
I mean, he didn't do it on his own. He did it because people like us were out there fighting him every damn day.
Oh, he's smart. I mean, Sununu. I mean, the thing is, like, when Sununu did, and I'm not, again, I don't want this to take defending him. I wish he had done none of this, but like, even when he did the quote, stay-at-home order, he did it, and he does, and he says, well, what's the enforcement mechanism? There isn't one. What's the list of what's accepted? 60% of jobs. He has this way of doing things where he's always attempting to kind of please both sides. And I think that's what he was doing with the COVID stuff. But he absolutely understood that there is this base here that's going to be very agitated if he attempts to restrict their liberty in any way. And it happened to him, and he deserved it. He deserved it. He deserved worse, quite frankly. Yeah. So I'm not trying to defend him. But I did want to say, for people who are hearing some of these words, like, I left New Hampshire for the first time, in like November of 2020 or something, when after even the worst of anything that had been, and it was like going to an alien country, leaving New Hampshire and going to Pennsylvania. I was like, oh my God, this is what it's like elsewhere.
I haven't left the state. I haven't left the state. I feel like I might fall off the ends of the earth if I leave. We're an island in a sea of hell.
Yeah.
Okay.
I went to Massachusetts to visit my family for Christmas. No, don't do it.
I haven't gone to Massachusetts. I did go to Maine for one day in the summer, but otherwise I have not left this state. I was so terrified too, because I know what's happening. And the entire Northeast is a nightmare. My in-laws come here from New York and they're like, what's happening? What do you mean you leave your house without a mask? What are you talking about? I mean, they can't even understand it. It's like they've gone to an alien country just coming back to normal. But no, I mean, it is because of the culture here, right? Sununu and I have issues. But he is an excellent political strategist, right? He really knows how to straddle the fence and keep foot on both sides. And it's because we've moved the fence in a certain direction that, we didn't fall off the end here. Although I will say that I think he's not quite understanding. I think he's miscalculating the vaccine mandate situation a little bit and how much his base dislikes mandates. There was a poll that came out, New Hampshire specific, registered Republicans in New Hampshire, 89% oppose vaccine mandates of all types. And it was like 70% of independents. Those are the people who vote for him. Mm-hmm. And he could be a little bit stronger about it. Not to say we joined the lawsuits, right? And I've talked to the Attorney General about it. He's very passionate about it. But he gets out there and he doesn't really want any legislation to pass to fight this, it seems like, from the things that he says. So, and I think that's like the first time that I feel like he's politically miscalculating a bit. But we'll see. It's a long
donating to his race, I suppose.
I thought he miscalculated on fighting you guys on the emergency powers reform as well. That's one of the few times I thought I'd seen him miscalculate from a pure political perspective.
But a lot of people don't see the importance of that. See, they see how a vaccine mandate impacts their life, and also the emergency powers thing.
No,
a lot of people
I agree. Sorry, to explain what I meant by miscalculate. I meant that he miscalculated among the legislatures who did care, right? And so he fought his own base in the legislature on an issue that had no optical significance come next election. That's what I meant by
exactly. No, yeah, you're totally right. The average person didn't care why he had to fight us on that, and just
give it to you guys, right?
It was his ego. It was as simple as that. You saw it happen, and he was like, it was literally his ego.
But he's very good at not doing that.
He's generally good at it, but once in a while, you're like, oh, I'm gonna go COVID crazy too, and you know what? And I mean, there was no good.
He does that to us with a lot of things, though. I personally think that he really enjoyed having a different party in the majority where he got to be, the hero with the veto pen. So sometimes because he unnecessarily smacks back at us a lot, actually. It's disappointing.
All right. Well, as Dennis Pratt points out, the most major miscalculation was arresting protesters.
Yes, mandates, so. That just made him a total dictator. I mean, that was
And you know, I mean, they've lost all the lawsuits so far. So basically, all they've done is wasted an incredible amount of taxpayer resources on political persecution of people he doesn't like. And I mean, we're going to see more of that. Maybe we can do a show on that later. But I'm seeing a lot of angling, you know, with regard to you know, some of the constitutional amendments that was proposed, the New Hampshire Independence Bill. I see people are now framing it that, you know, they want people to be called secessionists, not secessionists, but insurrectionists, domestic terrorists. Like, there's a bill that's going through. I mean, it's pretty alarming to actually see, like, just the genuine implementation of things that would make Stalin blush. And people are just kind of willy-nilly doing it.
Well, we did have one question coming from Odyssey chat, so I couldn't bring it up. But Killigolo wants to ask if Rebuild has any more events planned coming up in the near future.
We don't have any in-person events other than to come to hearings right now. No other planned in-person things. Although you never know, sometimes things just pop up. Like we had that legislative press conference that we sort of turned into a rally, and maybe the legislators didn't know that.
And how can people sign up to get more information about how to stay involved with future events and upcoming legislation you want them to testify on?
Yeah, rebuildnh.com, and there should be a pop-up window that'll pop up, and you can put in your email address and get all of our emails.
All right. So everybody should definitely go sign up for Rebuild New Hampshire. Keep in touch. See what's going on. This has been a great show. It's been a super fun show. Melissa's great energy every time I talk to her. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. We do have a bunch of things. So coming up soon, we have Liberty Forum. First weekend of March, go to NewHampshireLibertyForum.com, get your tickets. It's going to be a great time. We're going to have a fantastic, awesome keynote speaker to be announced soon, and you guys are going to want to make sure you're definitely going to be there. So first weekend of March, Manchester, New Hampshire. It's going to be an awesome, fantastic time. Dennis is going to want to make sure I absolutely mention that PorcFest is almost 3/4 sold out from what I've heard now. It was 2/3 2 weeks ago, and it's just moving fast. Hotel rooms are sold out for miles around the campground, and campsites are going fast too. So make sure you get your PorcFest tickets. Make sure you get your reservations for PorcFest done ASAP. If you are coming to New Hampshire for Liberty Forum or any other reason you're coming to New Hampshire, make sure you check out fsp.org/calendar so you can get plugged into local events coming up and plugged into your community. You can meet your friends, meet your future neighbors, see what's going on, and see how you can help and how you can get more involved when you do get here. One of the events I'm most excited for coming up is the 500th consecutive cryptocurrency meetup, the longest running cryptocurrency meetup in the world, 500 consecutive weeks. Go to Free State Crypto. That's February 6th in Manchester, New Hampshire. You can only buy tickets in cryptocurrency. If you want to go and you can't figure out how to buy tickets in cryptocurrency because you want to get there to figure out how to get into crypto, send some of us a message and we'll help you make sure that happens.
There's also Porcupine Day that is coming up on the 5th of February. That'll be at the Bedford Murphy's Tap Room. That's just going to be a celebration, mostly for people in the community who are already here. But we would welcome anyone who wants to come. Just come say hi. The tickets are $25. That includes finger food. There's a cash bar. And there's going to be a really cool limited edition memento. So you want to make sure you get your tickets. It's in 2 weeks. So it's Saturday in a week. So we have a couple of weeks left. We've sold about 1/4 of the tickets. I think it's going to sell out. So don't wait. It's $25. It goes to a good cause. Let's celebrate our growth. Let's celebrate winning.
All right. Anything else, Jeremy, Melissa? Anything you guys want to plug?
I just want to say about Liberty Forum specifically, if you're the kind of person who's like, I want to see this bill passed, or you want to meet these people, like it is, if you have ideas for how to make the state freer, if you're excited about how a place gets freer, if you're curious about how we've been doing all these things, it's the event to go to. PorcFest is fun. Everyone should go to PorcFest. Liberty Forum, though, if you want to meet the people who are getting things done, who are making the state freer, it's the place to be. And so I just wanted to give that plug.
Yep. And always make sure you guys give the Free State Project a follow on Twitter and other social media platforms. Stay in touch, keep in touch. And if you are one of those awesome, not yet Free Staters thinking about making your move, how to get here, how to get help, make sure you go to, where's my link? fsb.org/welcome wagon. Get in touch with Free State Project volunteers who can get you plugged in and help you make your move. And we look forward to helping you unpack and welcome you as new neighbors. But until next time, be free, everybody.
Bye, guys. Peace out.